sharing their experience from tech leaders to tech leaders. This is CTO Talks.
Hello and welcome. This is Marcin Jabłonowski, and my guest today is Tomáš Bergl, the Senior Director of Engineering at Outreach. Hi, Tomáš.
Hi, Marcin.
Straight from Prague. Tomáš, could you say a few words about your role at Outreach and about the company? What does it do? What's its core business?
Mm-hmm. So I will start with the company. Outreach is basically a sales engagement platform. So think about it that we are, in a way that we are supporting our customers to sell whatever they are selling to their customers. So basically we help them to kind of create opportunities to sell something and then close those opportunities. And we do it like in a very clever way. Our platform is kind of some parts quite AI driven. And basically at the end, like we help our customers to be successful and be able to get higher revenues and get more customers. So that's really like 15 seconds overview. But of course, I can provide you more details.
And I'm guessing it's like a SaaS-based service, isn't it? Platform?
Yes, it's cloud-based service, web app. We as well have some other products like Extension or Outlook add-in and so on, and or Kaya Assistant, which is something like Siri for sales. But overall, like we provide platform where our customers that, for example, now are on the Salesforce or Dynamics, they can start migrating to the Outreach platform and leverage it to basically being able to close the deals faster, being able to understand how to communicate with the customers. And as well, we have very strong reporting now. So understand like what's working, what's not working, basically how they are doing, how they are selling. So basically account executives, managers can see like how their salespeople, SDRs, how they are doing, how they are selling basically.
Okay.
And your second question was about my role. This was changing over the time since I joined Outreach around 4 years ago. I started as a engineering manager / site lead, and then later on I became engineering director and senior engineering director in the Outreach Prague. And so my role changed slightly. I'm still very technically oriented. I have a couple of teams that are reporting to me that are working on calendar, email, records management, and similar areas.
Okay, so the topic of today's episode is your journey with building the site in Prague, so Outreach. So as far as I know, Outreach is based in the US, right?
Yes, it's based in the
Seattle. Yeah.
It's based in the Seattle, which is 9 hours time zone difference, so it can be quite challenging. So when I was starting to talk to folks from the US about the opportunity building here something like this in Prague, and we really want to do it because we know a lot of people here, so we have a lot of connections. We know that Prague is in the Central Europe, and we can relocate a lot of great engineers and build a really international and diverse team. We basically started around 2019 at the autumn 2020. I was not alone. I was like first employee, but pretty soon, like I was able to hire several other people together, of course, with the US team, and we were starting to building Outreach Prague together.
Okay, so just making a step back. You mentioned that there is the headquarters is in Seattle, and there is 9 hours difference. Yeah, so there must have been some other decision factors that made Outreach build a delivery center in Central Europe, in Prague, in Czech Republic. Do you potentially know these reasons why the hub was set up here?
Yes. That's what I mentioned, is that number one, definitely connections. like our VP and our EVP and many other folks in the US, in the outreach in the US. They have the connection to me and the other folks that we have here in Prague. They previously we were working together in previous company. I hope I can mention it, in Microsoft. So we know each other. So there was synergy, there was this connection. And so we know there will be good talent pool of very senior principal level engineers that can help us out to build something from scratch.
Mm-hmm. So talent, was the biggest
talent, number one. Talent.
Number one.
Like outreach needed to scale very fast. We need to hire like a lot of engineers and employees across the world. And we know that we can be very successful in Prague in hiring those great engineers and product managers and designers. Mm-hmm. And at the end, we are way more successful than I expected. Like original, our plan was maybe we will hire 35 people or something like that. We will build like small team that will be focusing on one area. And just in the first year, we hire over 40 people.
Okay.
And then next year, 50 people. And so we continue to grow and grow through first 3 years very, very rapidly.
Okay, I'm sorry I'm going back to my original question. But very often when companies, and I think it may be interesting to basically the target audience of this show living overseas. How about many companies that set up their delivery centers in Central Europe? As another reason for doing that, give like cost saving factor. Is it still a thing? That's the question, or was it one of the decision factors taken into account here?
Based on my understanding, it was like, yes, it was factor, but it was a little bit less in the moment when we are kicking off Outreach Prague. Definitely, salaries in the Czech Republic are at least twice less than in the US. If I compare, let's say, Prague and Seattle area, so Washington State. So it could be factor, but it's not necessarily something that we were discussing that much during the initial kickoff phase. We were really looking at opportunity to find great engineers, so we were making sure that our base salaries are way more competitive on the Prague market, and then we hire really the most senior talent, and that senior talent was quite expensive.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the other thing I know, you also mentioned this you kicked off the, let's say, process more or less when the COVID pandemic started, right? And I know that many companies that build their delivery centers in Central Europe focused on this kind of collocated work in the office. And pandemic changed it like completely, right? So everyone moved to remote work. Now, I assume setting up a new entity in this kind of turbulent times had its own challenges, yeah? So what's your, I would say, what were the biggest challenges that you faced at that time?
So I will first give you a little bit of the context. Like this all started in the autumn of 2019. Basically, even before I was hired, like I helped to organize some hiring event, and we get kind of core people to join us. And even before I started working for Outreach, like at the start of 2020, I was able to make sure that we will hire our first employee that will start like as one of the first people. That was HR person, so people site lead Veronika Dolešová, that was then helping out and driving a lot of those efforts, like from recruitment to like whole Prague HR to areas like I don't know, budgeting. And so what was biggest the challenge is that imagine that you are starting. I personally started 24th of the February, if I remember correctly, in the first week or second week of the March, everything was closed. I had a hard time to get back from US. One additional colleague that started at the start of the March actually caught the last airplane to be able to get to Czech Republic. And our original plan was that it will be like startup on the key. So basically, there will be people that will come to Czech Republic, whole team, IT, HR, legal, finance, and so on, facilities. And these team will come to Czech Republic, and we will find for us the office, and we will establish everything. This didn't happen, and nobody could travel, and there were kind of interesting challenges. For example, how you will pay employees. Because you need to pay them from some bank account, you need to pay them in the Czech crowns, and to be able to establish this bank account, you need to have some power of attorney and so on. And so someone should actually, in the Czech Republic, fly to Prague and sign some documents and so on, which was not possible. How you will make sure that those employees are working on some devices? So we were shipping all the devices from US at the start until we have IT department in Prague. But if you ship those devices during the COVID times, they still need to go through customs. And again, if you don't have yet at the start, for example, power of attorney because you cannot you cannot meet with the people, it might be a little bit challenging. So at some time we need to be a little bit creative, I would put it that way. So what was challenging is that pretty fast be able to kick off hiring, at the same time make sure that everyone is paid, they have the devices, that we can find some office, because our original plan was that we will be in some co-working spaces and so on, like Hub and others that are in Prague. Unfortunately, those told us that it's pandemic and they are not accepting anyone. So at the end, I was able to find through my contacts through WMC company place in the Visionary building in Holešovice where we are now, and they were able to find for us the space, and we manage all the details and so on to be able to accommodate people. So basically we work from home only for like 1 month or something like that. I think it was like March and some part of the April. And starting from the April-May time frame, all of us actually, everyone worked 100% from the office. So because we needed to, like, it's the start, a lot of things is not working, everyone is doing everything basically, so you need to be very close to each other.
Okay. So what you're saying is that was you doing all of the admin and logistic stuff. Am I right? Or was there...
No, I would say that a lot of logistic stuff around HR, around like salaries and so on was done by Veronica, that I hired around the February timeframe. Of course, I was supporting her whatever way I could. And at some point I was like even taking care of all the devices, shipping to Prague and so on. So not really engineering manager work, but it was needed to be done, or provisioning of the stuff for the people, so kind of facilities. So whatever was needed, like sometimes it was like facilities role, sometimes IT role, sometimes something else. At some point, like a lot of people were doing, everyone was doing kind of everything. And we needed to kick off the hiring, and we were at the end successful. We were hiring with our agencies at the start. But even with that, we properly started hiring around, like, let's say May timeframe, and we were able to hire like around 40 people in before end of the year.
Didn't you see any resistance, to come to the office during COVID pandemic?
Not at this time. When we were still smaller, let's say less than 40 people, everyone knows everyone. In average, our percentage of the referrals for hiring was like more than 70%. So everyone knew everyone. We didn't have any return to office policy or any guidelines back then. So people were just coming to the office. Most of them tried to have some protective equipment. We make sure that we set up a process that we are testing people every single morning with this spit saliva tests. And then from time to time, when we have any COVID outbreak or something like that, we handle it properly. We have good guidelines for that and so on. As we grew, it was a little bit more and more challenging. That you have like better sample of the population, and some people it was very convenient for them to work a little bit more from home than from the office.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and coming back to the hiring. You mentioned, so basically when the brand is new on the local market, like in Prague, that's very often quite an obstacle in terms that no one knows anything about the company, about its culture. And you said that you did some employer branding activities even before you started the hiring itself, or?
We kick it off pretty soon, but it was kind of cowboy style, I will put it. So we hired a PR agency, but only in 2021, or we hired a community manager only in 2023. I think in 2022 we have at least as well some support. And so 2020 was more about that some of us went and they have the podcast, or like we are joining Web Expo or some other events. But mostly what really helped us with the hiring were two things. One is that we spread the knowledge across all our contacts, and we have a lot of them that were interested to join us. And second thing is pretty soon we start to leveraging like hiring agencies, especially one of them was pretty amazing and help us out to kick off the process. So we set up properly interview loops and so on, and starting hiring very aggressively. Our interview loop, I could talk about it for a long time. It's like very hard. It is like 9 different rounds altogether, probably for candidates. But I was very proud that we didn't drop the ball, that we were able to keep hiring amazing talent. And our success rate from like, if you look on our like basically flow, our pipeline was not that high, but we were able to process quite a lot of people in the short time because everyone chipped in, everyone helped.
Okay, 9 stages of an interview. So did you? I'm really surprised because especially in a competitive market, this is one of the I would say factors that candidates look for in the new job. Yeah, I mean, probably, but in a sense that they look for as few interview stages as possible. So wasn't it like a big obstacle for you?
Yeah, it was a little bit challenging. And when I say 9, I mean all together. So first, usually agency talk to candidate. So that's one interview. Then usually someone from our side. So back then it was Veronica, as I mentioned. Then usually it was myself, someone that did like sales pitch or some other hiring manager. And that's already 3. Then we have around 5 technical interviews. That's 8. And in some cases, we have additional interview just to see that if the candidate is really, really aligning with our values.
Okay, that's incredible. All right, so you mentioned about the referrals that at the beginning they were up to 70%. How is it now? Do you still maintain this kind of high rate?
No, it went pretty down. I was making some statistics over the time. I think now it's like definitely below 20-30%. I don't know exact number now because last time I measured it like 1 year ago or something like that. And but I see like really exponentially it went down. which makes sense because we kind of depleted all the contacts and so on, and as well the situation on the market changed and so on. So, and on the top of that, we want to diversify a little bit our office. So we really try to make sure that we have different people from the different backgrounds and so on. As of today, I think we have more than 31 different nationalities and people from the various different companies, like from the corporates, from the small startups, people that were in one company 14 years and then join Outreach, and the brand new folks that are quite new on the market. So now it's, I would say, quite diversified if I compare it to early days.
All right. Now I'm quite interested about how the branch is structured compared to the headquarters. Yeah. So you mentioned that it's not only engineers that you hire, but also product managers. Could you please reveal, what is the team structure working in Prague, and basically, what roles it consists of?
Sure. I will first give you a little bit of context. Our goal in 2019 was to build standalone office. My previous company, I worked as well with the Seattle. I know how hard it is to work across 9 hours time zone difference. So we knew that we need to empower people somehow to limit to a certain extent cross-ocean ping pong, basically, in discussion. And the way how you can do that, you can empower teams to have the all necessary roles. So we knew that we need to hire product managers, engineers, and designers, but as well quality assurance, for example. And later on, we built a framework team that was focusing on the build. We have the team that is focusing on the infrastructure. But on the top of that, later on, you will find out that to make sure that engineers and product managers and designers are closer to the product, you should as well hire, for example, technical support that they are basically talking to customers on a daily basis. So we started hiring technical support, and later on, of course, like all the supporting roles and so on. And in the future, I would like to find a way how we can have, for example, sales in Prague. That would be great, because that way you can really kind of almost talk to your customer, just go like a couple meters to the next room, and you can talk to someone that is actually using your product.
That's quite interesting. And how about the support? Does it work 24/7 or only covers certain time zone?
Currently, from the technical support point of view, we have the people that work like night shifts, but majority of the people are working in a normal time zone, so normal shifts. Customer support is now like higher percentage of the Outreach Prague, but by far the highest one is still like engineering. So I would say that engineering is like 70% and technical support around 20%, and then you have HR, IT, facilities, and legal, and product marketing, and QA, product management, design, a lot of different roles.
All right, so I can say that it's quite a smart structure to deal with the 9-hour difference in time between Seattle and here. But I can still imagine that, for instance, product managers or product owners, given their role focused on product discovery and research, they still need to do quite a lot of workshops or discussions with the customers itself. So do they work with, I don't know, US customers, or how do they tackle this thing?
So first, we have customers like all around the world, like both in the US and in the Europe, but majority of our customers indeed are, as of today, in the US, to my knowledge. And yes, some of our product managers basically needs to set up call with the customers and and goals that are kind of respect customers' time and make some discoverability call with them and so on. So in some cases, it means that you might have the call a little bit later. We have as well customers that are all around the world. So they have the offices in the US and in Czech Republic or in Europe. So it's not like every customer you need to talk to. It needs to be like a late meeting or something like that. Second thing I would call out is that not only to be standalone to a certain extent, not only we solve it by having product design and engineering, but we solve it as well by carefully selecting what kind of charter, what kind of teams we will have in Prague. So for example, we have email experiences team that is focusing how to build UX and so on in React for email area, and as well we have email services team. So if someone from the front-end team needs something from the backend, they just walk a couple meters, they sit next to each other, and so it's not across the ocean discussion. They are still happening, those discussions. We still have like a lot of teams in the US and so on and other areas, but setting up this structure help us out a lot at the beginning to be empowered and to unblock ourselves whenever possible.
All right, so it seems like the Prague's office has quite a big autonomy in its operations. As you said, it's quite standalone. But even though given it's the same brand, and you said there are some standards or processes coming from the HQ, how do you manage this, kind of subtle balance between autonomy and applying the same culture, the same standards across the company?
So maybe the most interesting topic for this is culture, because Outreach has some global culture and we inherit a lot of that. We have our values that we have on our website, what we stand for, like we got your back, one with customer, honesty, craftsmanship, and so on. And we try to inherit all of those values in Prague. That said, we have a lot of people from the Eastern Europe / Central Europe. They have completely different mentality than people in the US. So I will give you example. In the US, culturally, they might celebrate Thanksgiving or Halloween, or they might celebrate Martin Luther King, or Outreach is very passionate about diversity and inclusion. So in the US, we have all the groups that are focusing on the minorities. So we, for example, have the day where you can reflect about like African American history. A lot of that not naturally does not connect with the Prague or Czech Republic outreach culture. We have our own things, right? Currently we care more about Ukraine, more about like Israel and Palestinian conflict and so on. So we need to go and a little bit build more our local culture. One way that really paid off to me was the hiring someone that will help us out with this. So some community manager that we have now, they'll help us out like with the internal events, external events. It helps to organize certain events which are closer to our hearts than, for example, Martin Luther King Day. And we are joining certain meetings, events, and so on, or organizing those. So yes, the culture, it's a little bit tricky. By default, we inherit certain culture from the US, but we need to adapt it to our area. And some of the values are more important for us than others. So I would say that number one value for Outreach Prague is probably honesty. Giving our mentality and so on in many areas around the office, during the recruitment, during the, public, during the all hands and so on, we try to be as honest as much as we can.
Okay, that's great to hear. All right. So slowly wrapping up, could you please say from your experience, throughout the whole process, what was the biggest challenge or something that was like, great lesson learned for you?
So number one, biggest challenge in building the office, right? Yes. So number one, back then, of course, 2020 was COVID pandemic. After that, it started to changing into the scalability challenge. So when we were less than 40 people, I personally, for example, could have one-to-one with everyone, and you can have kind of smaller team, more tightly coupled folks. You can easily have a better culture. Once we will grow over the 50 and then later 80 and 100 and 120, it was way harder. So the scalability was issues. By far the biggest challenge so far for the whole time of the outreach in Prague was definitely war in the Ukraine, and then resulting global situation, so global financial situation, and we can see that a lot of companies are basically started to do the cost saving and letting people go and so on. And yes, in the last 2 years, we have I think three reduction in force basically since July 2022. So that was very hard. How you keep the culture, how you keep people motivated, and so on. Keep coming into the office and be engaged with each other when basically you need to let go some of the colleagues.
Okay. That's not a reassuring message. So maybe you have any advice here for anyone being in that situation, and I believe you're not the only one, and Outreach is not the only company doing that at the moment. So how do you keep people motivated with morale high, given you need to lay off?
So one thing I mentioned was that a community, being able to engage them, and it's working. Second thing is that really accept that the situation, so be empathic, accept the situation is very hard for them. So adapt the workload and trying to think about different people requirements and so on. Some of our colleagues were very much impacted by war in Ukraine, and they have their friends and parents or spouses and so on. So really what we do is trying to, in the Prague, be as a one team, invest into that community, trying to listen a little bit more to people, what they have to say. And we even started to changing a little bit organization structures, of course, as some people left and so on. So we, for example, merged some teams together, temporarily, so we can have better executing teams, because we don't want to have smaller teams of the 3 people or something like that. That will be constantly stressed by being able to execute. So in some cases, we merge a couple teams together. They have then more than 7-9 people, and they are able to execute better with better confidence, because in this situation they can prioritize better. So previously we had several teams, and now there is one bigger team, and they can say, out of all the topics across all of those teams, what is my top list, what is the most important features, and that will help people to execute, and it might remove a little bit of the stress. So I don't have any golden ticket, honestly. We are learning this as well. So if you will find something during your other podcasts, how to solve it, let me know.
Actually, I was discussing it to record a dedicated episode exactly about this, and because it's a time where many people and CTOs are going through the same process, and it's quite emotionally difficult as well for the decision makers. Yeah. So especially if you build some bonds with your team. So I totally understand this. However, assuming that there is anyone in the US considering the same move, meaning building its own delivery center or delivery hub in Central/Eastern Europe, what would be your advice to look for before starting the process or making the decision?
So first, I will look at if I'm talking about Europe, I will look at the markets and I would really think about the expectations. Some of them expectation we will just save the money and they are choosing between, let's say, Europe, India, or some other areas. Czech Republic, it's still way cheaper than the US. And I would say this kind of sweet spot. It's good return on investment when we are still twice as cheap than US, but we are able to deliver a lot. So I would say that person definitely first think about your requirements and what you want to build. Second thing is that think about the size of the office. From the certain size, smaller office often doesn't make fiscally sense, right? You are paying a lot of the office for the facilities and other stuff, so it's big overhead. So decide properly on the size. Another one will be like make sure that you have the good ratio between product design, engineering, and other roles. If I were doing it myself again, I would like pretty fast hire HR, which I did, but I would as well hire someone that will be taking care of the morale/community and so on very fast. So building that camaraderie, let's say, between people in the office. And what will be very useful is that some of the SLT would from time to time, once you build the office or one is kickoff, fly to Prague and stay here for at least a month. Because if you do that, then you will understand what are the challenges. You will get a little bit more empathy. You will understand about the challenges for cross time zone communication, late night meetings, and these things. You will immediately build properly guides how to solve this situation. What is the golden window? How you do the all hands so they are inclusive across the time zones and these kind of things. What is your Slack or Microsoft Teams culture, how you communicate and these kind of things. So that way you will make sure that everyone keeps like part of the common culture, common company, instead of that you have those cheap folks somewhere in the Prague or India or somewhere, and you will give them something that maybe it's not that critical. So we did it in the good way, since beginning. Like Prague team get since beginning very core pieces of the outreach platform, like mail, calendar, records management, and so on. So I'm very happy about that. We did it well. Definitely, I have still several learnings what we could do better. For example, for hiring and so on. And that reminds me, if I will be building office in the Prague, I would make sure I have some hiring agencies from the beginning that will help us out to execute fast. Mm-hmm. And probably as well PR agency that will help out to make sure that you build a brand and people know about you. Because you are new at the start, you need to have the certain amount of the people that will give you trust in the beginning, and before you have critical mass, and that others will come naturally.
All right. Tomáš, many thanks for joining me and sharing your really valuable insights. I hope we managed to record another episode to elaborate on some of the topics we touched today. Thank you very much for joining.
Yeah. Thank you, Marcin.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
sharing their experience from tech leaders to tech leaders. This is CTO Talks.